Hello and welcome to my new play and chat video. I'm playing Fear 3 on the PlayStation 3, and I'm playing a game mode which is very similar to kind of a mix between the Horde mode and Nazi zombies. And it's okay. It's not especially brilliant. There's a few things I don't like about it. First and foremost, I'm not too keen on the way that you get the additional weapons power-ups in this. You have to pick up a supply crate and drop it off at a specific location that's marked on the map. Now when I started to play this, as you'll see in a moment, I went and picked up the supply crate and then realised that I couldn't actually put the damn thing down. Now, there's probably a way of doing that, but in my haste, because I was being attacked at the time, and I didn't actually know that I picked the thing up rather than just open it, I made a bit of a faux pas and ended up dying. This is the supply crate here. Now when you pick this up, as I say, you have to take it to a specific location that's marked by a big circle with a gun in the middle. It's all very annoying and really unnecessary. It just seems to add a degree of frustration to the game mode. As you can see there, that's where you've got to drop it off, but that's actually underneath where I'm headed. You see like the two locations there. So you try to get to it and then you realise, oh god, it's in the room underneath. And of course, not being familiar with the map whatsoever, and then I quickly realised I was in a world of crap because I couldn't actually put the crate down, which is not particularly useful. But anyway, yeah, it's an okay game mode, not my favourite. And as you can see, I died pretty quick, which was very, very annoying. So anyway, this play and chat, what do I want to chat about? I want to sort of have a chat about a few things regarding Microsoft and the Xbox 360 in its current state, and also where the Xbox is going to go. There's been a lot of talk about the 360, well, about the Xbox brand in the past couple of weeks or so. Generally, a lot of it is speculation in terms of where's it going to end up going. You know, is there going to be a big announcement at E3? There's been sort of semi-confirmed rumours about how it's going to be powered. And I say semi-confirmed, although some websites might actually scream, yes, we have confirmation it's going to use X graphics card and Y and so on. The actual new Xbox has not been confirmed by Microsoft, and they're really the only people that can confirm what's going to happen and what is going to happen. You know, all these inside sources and people in the know and so on and so forth. Ultimately, it is pretty speculative. It's not as if you can just, anyone can put their hand on the heart and say this is 100% definitely going to happen. But if we take on board the speculation so far, and we assume that, you know, this is going to be building up to an E3 announcement of some sort about the future of the Xbox, then there's a few things really that I particularly want to talk about. But what I'm going to start first is, there seems to be a lot of people at the moment whose Xbox Live accounts have been hacked, and this seemingly has something to do with Electronic Arts, an exploit that's been found in buying microtransactions for things like FIFA 12 and so on and so forth. Now, I don't actually know whether that's the truth, so that's why I'm saying it's, you know, it's supposedly and it's speculative. I think people are trying to figure out how this is happening, and I'm not going to say that is definitely the way, that is definitely what's happening. I'm just saying that seems to be the consensus of opinion. That might not be the case at all, but it does seem strange that a lot of people's live accounts have been hacked, and although Microsoft do take steps in fixing the problem in a matter of days, the issue remaining is there has been a security breach somewhere along the line. And what I find very, very disappointing is that Microsoft haven't actually come out and said, yeah, there is an issue going on here and this is what it is. Or if they don't have the definitive answer to the issue that's going on here, then at least they could turn around and say, look guys, there's been a security compromise and we recommend that you go and change your Xbox Live password, because there's a good chance that some dirty little hacker out there is going to nick your points that you've got, or even worse, if you've got a credit card tied to that account, start buying stuff and billing your credit card for it. But they haven't. They've remained very, very tight-lipped on the subject, and I find that really disappointing. I expect more from a company like Microsoft. When a situation like that arises, they have a responsibility to their customers. Whether they like it or not, something has happened. Now they either have to come out and make a definitive statement on it and say, no, it hasn't been hacked, it's a problem with this, this and this, and we are working with whoever to get it sorted. Or they say, yeah, we have been hacked and we recommend that you change your passwords, and if anybody has any issues, we'll sort it out. Okay, these things happen and you have to deal with it. It's disappointing when it happens, but you have to deal with it. But when you think back to last year and how much flack Sony got when they got hacked, that it took Sony 3 days to come out and admit it, it's surprising really how little flack Microsoft is getting in the media. Now this is something that didn't happen 3 days ago. This has been going on for months. Now, they must know what the problem is, and even if they're unsure of how to fix it definitively, their responsibility is to still come out and say, yeah, there's a problem. Now, Sony, by comparison, acted very quickly and very dramatically. They shut down their online service completely, and they said, look guys, when the service comes back up, change your passwords and so on and so forth. They acted with a degree of decision, and they pretty much, I'm not saying it was great what they did, because they should have notified people sooner. Even 3 days is a long time, but by comparison, they've been positively, unbelievably quick to address the problem. Microsoft are sitting on their hands, it seems, and hoping that this problem will just go away. Well, it's not going to go away unless they do something about it. And it strikes me that they're putting their own interests first. If they shut down their online service, then because it's a paid service, people are going to demand compensation. I mean, Sony went to great lengths to compensate people for the inconvenience of losing a free service. They gave away a subscription to the PlayStation Plus. For current PlayStation Plus subscribers, they were refunded the month that they missed, and they gave away, was it 4 or 5 PS3 and or PSP games. So it was quite a generous refund, really, when you think about it. Okay, the hack should never have happened. I know it was poor security by Sony which allowed that to happen, but they compensated people. And I think the fear with Microsoft is the cost of compensating people if they have to take the service down. The perception will be that it will cost them a lot more than what it costs Sony. But it could end up costing them a lot more than it costs Sony, because if this problem becomes even greater than what it already is, and believe me, it's a problem out there that's going on right now, and it's going to get worse unless they fix it. The problem is that they're going to lose customers, because people aren't going to tolerate a company that sits there and does nothing or doesn't say anything when accounts are being hacked. I don't want to be a customer of that business that idly, that has knowledge that there's something wrong and fails to inform me. Because unless I am connected to people who this has happened to, which I am on Twitter, and unless you are into gaming and you go on gaming websites and find out this information, there's no communication whatsoever. Now, the average person doesn't do that. The average Xbox Live gamer isn't doing that. They're going to carry on, and suddenly they're going to notice, if they do get hacked, that their points have gone, or even worse. And it's going to be a case of, well, what's going on? Why has this happened? They're going to contact Xbox Live support, and they're going to just carry on in the belief that Microsoft have done nothing about this, because Microsoft haven't come out and said anything. And there's a responsibility there. And if that had happened to me, and I found out, because usually what happens in these situations, then people do start investigating the problem on the internet, they'll type it into Google or whatever. And I found out that this problem was quite a prolific problem, and they hadn't done anything about it. They hadn't made any announcement or anything to that effect. I tell you guys, the first thing I do is I cancel everything I've got with that company, and I never use them again. And I'm pretty sure that goes for a lot of people as well, because that's really poor. By any standard, that is really poor. That's really poor customer service, and it's bad. But anyway, I mean, as I say, that is based on the assumption that that is the problem. And I don't want to go any further into that. I mean, as I say, that is assuming that the responsibility and the problem lies with them. You have to be careful not to throw rocks at people if that's not the case. But there's clearly something wrong. All of people's accounts being hacked like they are, and they're not going on to these phishing sites. They're not trying to buy Microsoft points for 5p. They're not trying to buy Xbox Live Gold membership for £1 or $1 or anything like that. Then there's clearly something wrong, and that needs to be looked at. So anyway, don't want this video to turn into a Microsoft bashing exercise, but what I'm going to chat about now is the direction that Microsoft are going, and what I think is going to happen with the next generation Xbox, whatever it ends up being called. We'll call it the 720 for now, because that seems to be the language that's being used to describe it. I don't think they'll call it that, because it wouldn't really make a whole lot of sense, but who knows. I think we're already seeing, with the current Xbox, the direction indicators as to where the Xbox 720 is going to go. It's pretty obvious to me that Microsoft are going down the route of their console being more of an interface for people to get into multimedia. The sort of one-stop solution under the TV in the living room, as opposed to the games console, which the Xbox 360 was initially focused on. And the indicators are there. If you look at the new dashboard that's come out, games has very much taken a secondary, if not tertiary role in terms of where it's positioned on the dashboard. You can't really read too much into that, but it's obvious that there is a degree of change that has happened in terms of the focus. You go back to when the Xbox was originally released, it was all about the games, and the Dash was built around that. It was built around games, and it was built around your friends list, and they were very much the focus. And slowly that emphasis has shifted to the point now where, with the new dashboard, the landing screen on your new dashboard is very little in the way of direct games or friends list related. Now, in many respects, I can't blame Microsoft for this. It's pretty clear that people, they build their service on what they see is being used. They collect data from the usage of Xbox Live. Whenever you do something, whether you download a game, when you're playing games, whether you're downloading and watching a film or music or whatever, all of that is logged. It's nothing nefarious, it's just logged. I mean, it's a usage thing. It's how they gather their data and how they target their products. What they will look at, they'll say, well, during the lifespan of the Xbox 360, as they've introduced things like Netflix, Sky or ESPN, if you live in America, they will look at how that's being used and how much that's been used, and that's how they'll base where they're going to take the Xbox to in the future. So essentially, when people say that, oh, Microsoft are ignoring what people want, that's not really the case. They're basing their business model and the future of the Xbox on the data that they've collected from how people have been using the Xbox 360. And of course, the more features you introduce, the more likelihood is that people are going to start to use the console differently. I personally don't, because I already have Sky, and so I don't use my Xbox for Sky. It's just something I've never bothered to set up. I don't use it for films because I have a PlayStation 3, and the PlayStation 3 has, I collect films rather than download them. So I use the PlayStation 3 and the Blu-ray because the sound quality is far superior through the PS3. I mean, that's not a swipe at Microsoft. That's just a simple fact. And being a sort of old school kind of guy, really using a console as a music device doesn't really appeal to me either. I've got a hi-fi and I've got an iPhone and an iPad, so I mean, if I want to listen to music and stuff, I'll use that to do it. But the functionality is there, and people are obviously using it, and this is why Microsoft are doing what they're doing. They're not attacking, or they're not, turning their back on anyone. They're just embracing a larger marketplace. Now, one of the things that has been mentioned about the new Xbox 720, if that's what it's called, is that the graphics card that they're going to put in it is not as powerful as the top range graphics card that's in PC now. And that is slightly disappointing, because I would expect Microsoft to want their console to be at the bleeding edge of technology, but that's not really realistic. I'm not familiar at all with how much a top range graphics card costs for a PC these days, but a few years ago, when I was PC gaming, I spent about £350 on a top range graphics card. Now, just the graphics card alone, even that wasn't the best on the market. It was one of the best, but it wasn't the best. What you have to remember is they're trying to make something that they can sell to as many people as possible, and putting in the world's best graphics card is going to substantially push up the retail price of the console, and that's neither use nor ornament to anyone. If the console ends up coming out costing people £500-600, nobody's going to buy it. You know, we all complained about the high price of the PS3 when it came out, and that was £400 for the top model. So who in the right mind is going to want to pay £500-600 for a gaming console? Just, you know, and that price has been pushed up because it has the very latest Ninja graphics card in it. They have to strike a balance. I mean, from what I understand, the graphics card is 6 times more powerful than the one that's sat in the current Xbox. I mean, if you think about that, that is a pretty substantial jump. I mean, if something was twice as powerful as something else, that's still a pretty substantial jump. But to say, you know, it's actually going to be 6 times more powerful, that's really big in real terms. That's quite a leap forward. You know, if its capabilities of what it's going to be able to do as a games machine is going to be 6 times better than the current Xbox, I don't think there's any real area of complaint there. And you have to bear in mind as well that consoles use custom chipsets, so it's not just about the power that's on paper, it's how that power is used. And it's used in a considerably different way than it is on a PC, for example, which has to allocate system resources to stuff that's not necessarily tied into playing the game. And although that's the case on the Xbox to an extent, it's by no means to the same extent that it is with the PC. You know, PCs, generally speaking, were not built with playing games in mind. They were built for other things. I mean, games, you know, have almost been shoehorned onto the PC. It's not a natural environment for games to be played on. The basic architecture of the PC is to do a great many other things other than just play games and be an entertainment system, and that's in general where consoles do have the advantage. You know, why they're cheaper. They can make better use of the technology available to them. But, you know, in any event, I don't think there's any great cause for concern in terms of the power available if that particular graphics card is going to be the one that's used. As I say, Microsoft have yet to come out with anything to confirm that. But what's interesting is, are Microsoft actually purposefully allowing such things to get into the marketplace at the moment, and into the media at the moment, simply to allow the interest to organically grow for the E3 event? It would be a huge anticlimax if at E3 this year Microsoft didn't announce a new Xbox. Normally they will come out and say, no, this isn't going to happen, blah de blah, and that's it. You know, we're not going to do anything, and so on and so forth. They haven't been so quick to do that at this moment in time. So it's going to be interesting. I mean, the time is right. The Xbox 360 is 7 years old this year, and whether it's just my Xbox or not, the new dashboard runs pretty slow. It chugs along at times. It's not as fast and as efficient as it once was, so it's clear to me that it's sort of pushing the hardware. Just even the dashboard is starting to put a burden onto the hardware, and it's about time that there was a new Xbox. I think that it's probably coming to the end of its cycle now. A lot of the franchises have pretty much been exhausted. I think that the only thing I can think of is that the big franchises coming out at the back end of this year, like Halo 4 and so on and so forth, there might be resistance to that. But then again, I mean, unveiling a console this year doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be out this year. In fact, I would suggest it would be quite the opposite. I think that Microsoft did something fairly unusual with the 360 in terms of they unveiled it at E3 and then you know, it came out shortly thereafter. They might do the same thing again. So, I mean, you might be faced with a situation that, you know, they won't announce it at this year's E3. They may announce it next year's, and then 6 months later they release it. But I don't know. I just think that it would be the right time for them and the right circumstances for them. And it would be good. It would be good. It'd be good to have some, you know, new console hardware to look forward to. So that's it for this video. Thank you for watching it, and please stay tuned to my channel for more videos coming soon. Thank you for watching.